when J.D. Unwin focused on how traditional sexuality and broke that down into a number of points, but what his research shows is exactly and the beauty, this is the beauty of his research. The beauty is that he published it in 1934. And at first people today will say, 1934? That is so yesterday. Like, what has that got to do with today's civilizations? And that is a very good comeback. That is a very good objection. So, but the beauty of J.D. Unwin's research is that it wasn't just his opinion in 1934. It was pulling out the data of thousands of years of different societies and civilizations and looking for recurring patterns. And then out of that, arose some predictions. And this is where I say it gets beautiful, because as a scientist, it's one thing to listen to a theory. It's quite another if that theory advances testable predictions. And so J.D. Unwin's research advanced testable predictions. And what he found is that the tipping point in a society is when premarital sex is allowed. It becomes, there's no constraints against people engaging in what he called prenuptial sex, because the term marriage and so forth wasn't used in all societies, but they all had this concept of what we call marriage. And there was a before part to it, and then there's the married part of it. So the tipping point, and I was shocked at this. I hadn't expected that the tipping point would be when prenuptial sex is permitted. But when it is, a tipping point is crossed, and then three predictions come true, according to his research. Number one, rational thought disappears within 2 generations, that people no longer use rationality and logic to arrive at their conclusions, but more tend to go towards what they want to believe instead. That happens. Number 2 is strict monogamy disappears. And he defines strict monogamy as the marriage, lifelong relationship between one man and one woman. That then disintegrates down into modified monogamy, which is a series of relationships, either common law or marriage. In our culture, we would use those terms, which then degenerate down into even just general polyamory. The third thing that happens is that belief in God just sort of wanes, and it just disintegrates, belief in God. Now, when you look at what happened after the sexual revolution in our culture, which began in the 1960s, you see that all 3 of those predictions have come true in a remarkably obvious way. First of all, belief in God has just plummeted in our civilization. Rational thought today, I would say it's become really obvious in the last, say, decade, has just gone out the window. And now it becomes more important that you don't talk about things that are absolutely true or false, because that's thought to be almost bigoted to be able to talk in those terms. Rather, people speak and believe in terms of what they want to believe or what they identify as. Anything that they want to believe is now sacred. It is more important than what is actually true, and believing that there's actual truth out there is actually not good. You'll pay a price for that.
Now there's such a thing as hate facts, where if you say something that's true, but it hurts someone's feelings, therefore it's hateful and it's verboten. It's not the fact that what you said is 100% accurate and provable has nothing to do with the fact that it hurt this guy's feelings over here and therefore you're in trouble. The reality of the situation is totally irrelevant.
Yeah, the truth actually is a way of modifying our beliefs so that we can flourish within reality. But when a person sets aside truth and decides to go with what they want to believe, eventually they clash with the real world, with reality. And when that happens, that's just part of another aspect of the disintegration of a civilization. So his research showed that when you cross that threshold, when sexual revolution occurs, every society and civilization will collapse within 3 generations, which he defines as roughly 100 years. Our culture is now in the 2nd generation, and I think our culture is disintegrating faster than the other ones he observed, simply because I think we have more of a global society. We have a way of traveling swiftly between cultures and countries of the world, and we have the internet, which allows ideas just to explode within minutes around the world. And we have pornography, which has accelerated the sexual revolution and destroyed traditional sexual morality at a much faster rate. So when a person says, "Oh, that's irrelevant," it was written in 1934, I'd say, well, wait a sec. You got to test the theory. He provided 3 predictions, and those 3 predictions are occurring within as we speak with amazing clarity. They're totally obvious. And so when we see the predictions come true, we then have to go back to the theory and say, oh, okay, everything is pointing to the collapse of our civilization by the end of this century.